Thank you very much, Mr. Jide Yaniwura, and my profound thanks to my brother Dele Ogun and all my friends here, and then particularly to Sister Me, Dr. Mrs. Tokumbo Awolowo for being here as well. Talking about the Constitution that should be the way of making sure that we have certain codes of conduct and the way to organize ourselves and to have a direction is a strictly universal kind of quest. Those who are in the academia would say that there are two types of constitution. We have the written, we have the unwritten. They may be right in the sense that people will always exist. And I will insist that even if we want to go by science, we should start looking at the Yoruba having been in situ in this part of the world for at least 15,000 years. Science supports it. The University of Birmingham, they were here in 1965 at a place called Ihu, Eleru, very close to Akure, 24 kilometers to be precise, closer to another town called Isanu. Just about 10 kilometers into the bush there was this large expanse of caves. And inside these caves, many bones, human fossils were found, which have been successfully carbon dated to be 15,000 years old, which should make us the oldest living people in this part of the world. In fact, when you check out the map of the world that shows where they have found human fossils, it is in Yoruba land in the whole of West Africa that you will find the oldest. Which simply means we've been here. Others may have come to join us, but we've been here. And being here, even the DNA of those bones are closely matched with the DNA of the modern Yoruba. And we couldn't have been here for 15,000 years without something serious to show for it. And I'll tell you something. The Yoruba or your empire lasted for 650 years, compared to the mighty Great Britain that lasted for only 350 years, 650 to 350. We sure have something to be proud about, and proud about the way we've been able to organize ourselves, to manage ourselves. Even though the Yoruba before the colonialists didn't have a written constitution, but we had our set of rules, codes, and the way we used to do things. Right from the onset, we had established technology in terms of clothing, soil, and all of this. Even silk were part of what we used to wear. If anybody should remember the song about Alaye Olugbon Laye Aresa, Alaye Oba Abiodun. Abiodun lived when 1774. And the song went that Emira Koko Morano, Morekini, Babasho Ekini is silk, Ano is velvet. If we could be doing that way back 300 years ago, then of course we had our own constitution. We had a way of living our lives. If you check out the Great Britain without a properly written constitution, they have their own codes too. They have the Magna Carta of 1215, they have the Bill of Rights. They are homogeneous, in which case they speak the same language, they have the same culture. They may not need to have a codified a book to define who they are. So we didn't quite need it. We had our city-states, we had our Obaship system, and we had the judiciary, the executive in the Alafin or the Oba. We had the legislative and the chiefs. We had the Ogboni in the judiciary, and they acted as checks and balances to each other. Even when the British came, they saw a very serious arrangement. Even after the amalgamation, the very first constitution written, which was the Clifford Constitution, had the Alafin and the Sultan as the two Africans. That is what they wrote there. They didn't even say Nigerians. The two Africans represented there. Alafin for the whole of the South, and the Sultan for the whole of the North. They recognized the Yoruba as having a very structured, a very particularly technologically higher in terms of innovation, a system that was good enough in running things, in making things work. We had all of that present. The 1922 Constitution had to, at some point, give way to yet another constitution. But unfortunately, the one that came after that, the 1946 Constitution, did not quite represent the will of the people. There were so many riots. And the reason was because you're now bringing in different aspects of very diverse convergence of people to come and live together. And the Governor General then just did exactly the lazy thing of making it look like it was yet another Great Britain. It didn't provide for the different nationalities. It didn't provide for the different cultures. It didn't provide for the different religious dimensions. It didn't provide for the diversity. And there was so much trouble. There was so much commotion. That was actually the rise of the great Papa in lending a voice to how it will be unworkable to have a unitary type of constitution. All of that led to the 1949 conference, and then, of course, having to bring in a semblance of self-rule when Papa Awolowo became the very first African to be given the job of running a government. It was called the leader of government business in 1951. And then the 1953 London conference, in which the Yoruba, through Papa Awolowo, argued, and successfully too, for a federal system for this country to cater for the diverse needs, to take care of individual needs as well as collective needs, and to be able to situate the Yoruba in a proper federal structure. And that led to the Western region in 1954 having re-elected Papa Awolowo as the leader, but this time around with the position of the premier. And we all saw all that happened between 1954 and 1959. 5 glorious years. We had everything that could make us proud. We had the Western House in London, which is now the Nigeria House. We had our own consulate everywhere. We had our own constitution. We had the Western Nigerian Constitution. We had our own flag. We had our own coat of arms. And that was what we wanted. That was what was going to help. That was what was going to propel us into greater heights. And that constitution of 1954, it gave way to yet another in such a way as to have other aspects that people felt should be included. Now, I'm saying all of this because between 1946 and 1959, we had the Macpherson, we had the Richardson, we had the Littleton, and then we had the Independence Constitution. We had 4 constitutions in just about 14 years or 13 years or thereabout. In which case, the question will now arise, is it going to be a whole lot of time saving and perhaps being more effective to have a new constitution drawn, other than to have to patch, to kind of amend a totally unworkable constitution? So I'll take us to the American Constitution. The American Constitution is 244 years old, and it has only been amended 27 times. In fact, one of the amendments, just one, took 20 months to be able to put one amendment in place. And today we have a federal government that is telling us that we should go for constitutional amendment, and they're asking people to come and submit memoranda. And I'm going to ask, for how long are you going to be able to subject maybe 30, 40, 50 memoranda into wanting to change one aspect or the other as it suits people, in which case, how do we even begin to change the 774 local government structure? And I will explain. Lagos and Kano of the same, in quotes, population. But we are all very, very, very sure that Lagos is bigger. I consult for the World Bank, and the last known figure we use for Lagos in what we did with RTEP, Route and Tube Expansion Program, I wrote the implementation manual for that. The population we used for Lagos was 18 million in year 2000. Now, if Lagos was 18, what exactly was Kano when Kano had Katsina and Jigawa in it? Now, between Katsina and Jigawa and Kano states, the local government that was 24 became 104 local governments from one state that was split into 3. Lagos, that they said had the same population, has remained 20 local governments with 20 House of Reps members into the House of Assembly, into the House of Representatives. And then the old Kano returning 104. So even if I bring a bill now and I say, okay, I bring a memorandum and I say, let's change this. Who are the people who are going to vote? If we are going to have 104 from Kano, you can imagine how many House of Reps members come from the whole of the Southeast. Some of them don't even have more than 10 local governments or 11. So we are disenfranchised in the South, particularly in the Southwest. So how do we begin to change such a how do we begin to amend such a constitution? In which case, it is a useless piece of documentation to begin with. It is going to be obtuse. It's going to be useless to say we want to start to amend. The only thing we can do is to write another. And I'll tell you why we must write a proper constitution for this country. The last constitution that we had that is truly people-oriented was the 1963 constitution, which had to accommodate the Midwest in that constitution, and they still had to put some other things there. Now, the old constitution up to the year 1963 had the regions retaining 65% of their income, and that is why I will say it in Yoruba. Allah, Loma Fioko Olehon, is the meaning of what we were calling restructuring. Maybe we moved away from that now. In which case, till your land, walk your land, let me walk mine. Do not come to encroach on my land. I won't encroach on yours. Work hard on yours, make it to produce. I will work hard on mine, I'll make it to produce. And then at the end of the day, it is the yield that will determine who has worked harder. How can we now have a Yoruba land in which we have in one local government, Apapa in Lagos, we have the Tinkan, we have the Roro Port, and we have the Apapa Port itself. And between the three, they yield 67.7% of non-oil revenue to this country. And look at the road. Look at the road to Apapa. And look at what has become of the Yoruba with only one local government. VAT, 65.5%. In fact, there was a time I had to go to Channel Television to argue this out. And I did that because I'm the publicity secretary of the Yoruba Summit Group, which is the umbrella body for all Yoruba groups. That the total VAT that the Yoruba land actually supplies to the center is about 69% to 70% more VAT. And what do we get back in return? In terms of GDP, the Yoruba supply no less than 58.8% of our total GDP. The Yoruba do not even get 18% back in all of this that I have enumerated. And it's all due to a faulty structure and a defective constitution that does not give to us what is due to us. For how long are we now going to be arguing about amending such a constitution? In which case, the Yoruba Summit Group, in a communique that I brought out, faulted this idea of having an amendment. We don't want an amendment. We want a totally different kind of representation of the kind of ideas that will lead us to believing that we are not going to be treated like a second-class citizen in our own land. We are here. We evolved here. We didn't come from anywhere. The Yoruba own their land. You can't just treat them as if they don't matter. And looking at what we even give to the center, what we bring to the table, we're not even getting anything close to 1/3 or even 1/4 of what we bring. It is injustice of the Yoruba to continue with this line of structure, with this kind of constitutional arrangement that have been foisted on us. And I mean foisted. Let us look at every constitution from 1963. We had the 79 constitution. The 79 constitution, well, was initially properly constituted, but I remember Awolowo saw a lot of things wrong and decided he wasn't going to participate. But then some eminent Nigerians went and brought out something to which the military government tinkered with it and said they were going to set up a military or a federal review, in which case even if people had sat down to formulate something, now the military is coming with what? A superior kind of intellect, or they have a different kind of glasses to show some optics that they believe is better from their own perspective, to now tinker with what the people have decided. And that was with the 79. Sister Bitokumbo is here. She was part of the 1988 Constituent Assembly. And what happened was yet another tinkering of it by the Babangida regime. After all that they had said, the Babangida regime still did exactly what the Obasanjo regime did. And then it went on to this very annoying 1999 constitution, which was actually written by one person called Yadudu. And I want us to understand what I mean by that. It was the Attorney General. I think it was the one who took over from the man who took over from Oluogonoro, and we know how Oluogonoro had left. Oluogonoro was Attorney General who left because they were bringing out decrees that he claimed he didn't know anything about. And all of this they put into a constitution that was not in any way representing anyone. And that constitution starts with we the people. When did we even have a constituent assembly in 1999? Granted, we had one in 79, we had one in 88. For God's sake, which constituent assembly produced the 1999 constitution? So I will even want the Yoruba nation to look at this critically, and even the legal angle to it. Must we accept an illegality if there is a way that this group can do this? I will be very happy. I'll be very, very happy to champion it, to talk to our lawyers and see the possibility of taking the federal government to court and challenging the validity of a constitution that was not in any way enacted into any law about a truly constitutional process. And yet it is called a constitution. Somebody wrote it, presented it, and is with the people. There must be legal consequences. I will also want this group to take up what I had said about Iweleru. We should be able to send people there on an expedition to go and see where our ancestors originated from 15,000 years ago, so that we can be proud of who we are. From the rivers of Niger to the upper Volta River in Ghana, that was the extent of the Yoruba Empire. The Oninana of the Ga people in Accra is a Yoruba Oba. And there is another Yoruba Oba in Ghana. We have many in Togo. We have many in the Republic. And we are not just going to be these people that will be rubbished, because we have a rich history and we have a rich constitution. What constitutes the Yoruba is our strength. Sorry, I'll round up quickly.
Thank you.
So the whole idea is that as it is, we need to make an emphatic statement. We need to say we are not involved in any amendment. What we want is a properly written constitution that will reflect all of which the Yoruba people stand for. I would have to hold on for now because I still have so much to say. I hope there will be time. Thank you.